Discover the incredible moment two little girls transformed a lonely date with a heartfelt apology. Jake adjusted his rearview mirror, glancing nervously at his own reflection. At 35, he'd never imagined he'd be navigating the turbulent waters of dating after a bitter divorce. It felt surreal, driving to a restaurant for his first date with Sarah, a woman he'd met on a dating app. He was both excited and terrified. What if this new beginning went horribly wrong? The weight of his daughter's expectations loomed large in his mind. Emma and Lily were sweet and innocent. Their world had turned upside down due to his broken marriage. Guilt cramped his chest. Was he ready for this? As the golden leaves swirled around his car, he considered that this date was not just about him. It was about their potential new life, a life his girls might not embrace. Parental dread laced his thoughts, pulling him in different directions. What would his daughters think if things progressed? Or worse, what if it spiraled downwards? Anxiety bubbled in his gut, and he tightened his grip on the steering wheel. The restaurant loomed ahead, warm lights spilling out onto the street, but he hesitated at the entrance, breaths coming in fits. The cozy atmosphere inside was comforting, filled with the laughter of other diners and the rich scents of cloves and cinnamon. Yet each tick of the clock echoed in his ears, amplifying the tension that swirled in his stomach. Wouldn't the girls hate him if he found someone new? What kind of father made time for himself when his kids were still grappling with their new reality? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake finally stepped into the restaurant, intent on easing his swirling thoughts by diving into conversation with Sarah. But before he could strike up any dialogue, a commotion erupted at the door. To his utter shock, Emma and Lily burst in, eyes wide, helmets still clipped under their arms. Bound by urgency, they looked like two small warriors rescuing their father from a fate unknown. Heart racing, he blinked, unsure whether to laugh or be mortified. They apologized for interrupting, faces brimming with determination and worry, professing they still needed him, even if he wanted to make new friends. Sarah dropped to her knees, meeting his daughter's eyes with soft encouragement. What began as an awkward date had morphed into an unexpected family reunion of sorts. Jake felt the tension melt, replaced by an almost electric curiosity. The laughter flowed more freely now, barriers breaking down before his eyes. Stories about nature hikes and school adventures filled the air, weaving everyone closer together. Yet, a subtle fear clawed at him, unwilling to relent. As he observed Sarah's infectious smile warming his girls' hearts, Jake was consumed with the thought of his uncharted future. Could he truly blend the desires for new beginnings while remaining anchored to the girls who needed him? As the evening wore on, the realization hit him with unyielding force. Was he ready to embrace the potential for more? The evening unfolded in a patchwork of laughter and tender moments. Yet beneath the joy, Jake battled dark clouds of uncertainty. As he watched Emma and Lily engage with Sarah, their laughter mingling with the clinking of silverware, he felt a mix of pride and panic. This connection ignited something within him, unlocking memories of simpler times before the divorce had fractured their lives. Was this a glimpse of hope or just a fleeting distraction? As the night progressed, Sarah's genuine interest in his daughters left a glow of warmth in Jake's chest. She asked about their interests, listened intently to their stories, and shared a few of her own childhood escapades. It was a spectacle he had yearned for, a demonstration of kindness and compassion. But doubt tugged at his mind. Did this experience signify readiness to allow someone new into their lives? Would his daughters accept this new reality? Or would their hurt resurface as new insecurities? He found himself studying Sarah more closely. She was engaging, her laughter bright against the backdrop of candlelight. But as he observed the way she interacted with the girls, the ease in her gestures, her genuine smiles, an unsettling thought crept in. Could this charming, capable woman be someone whom he could not only date, but could also potentially become a part of their family? The prospect resonated and terrified him simultaneously. Once they left the restaurant, Jake fought an internal battle. While Emma and Lily chatted animatedly about their favorite parts of the evening, he couldn't shake off the tightness in his chest. They descended the steps, the chill of the night stark against the warmth of the restaurant, forcing him to confront the reality that awaited back home. His empty house, the silence that echoed after the chaos of their lives had shifted. He drove slowly, contemplating next steps. Returning to the safety of routine was tempting. However, the connection sparked with Sarah lingered like a sweet perfume, intoxicating yet unfamiliar. He risked a glance at Emma and Lily through the rearview mirror. They were blissfully unaware of his turmoil, already dreaming of piecing together playdates with Sarah's imaginative ways and talking about new adventures. This was an opportunity, he realized, a chance not just for himself, but for them all. But embracing this new possibility would require confronting his own fears. The haunting visage of past mistakes loomed large. Could he truly blend feelings of loss with the anticipation of joy? Would moving forward mean betraying his girls or unleashing their potential to heal in ways he hadn't imagined? As Sarah texted him a playful message, a simple invitation to consider a family outing, Jake's heart quickened. Excitement warred with dread. In choosing this path, he stood at the precipice of change. An architect tasked with designing a new foundation while salvaging what remained of the old. The time had come to face it head-on. He gripped the wheel tightly, the lines of worry crossing his forehead. His phone buzzed again. It was a picture of one of her favorite hikes. The lush green trails were calling to him. Did he dare forge ahead and accept the invitation? What would be unveiled on this journey? His thoughts danced on the edge of a decision. The future beckoned, filled with uncertainty, yet also shimmering possibilities. Jake took a deep breath, a wave of determination washing over him. What he didn't know was that this simple choice would lead to a revelation about himself that he never anticipated. As he ventured closer to Sarah's world, he would soon be forced to confront a truth not just about new love, but about his very identity as a father and a man moving past his past. The vibrant colors of dawn spilled into Jake's small kitchen as he prepared breakfast, the aroma of eggs and toast merging with the morning air. He moved with automatic precision, yet his mind was elsewhere, replaying the previous evening's events. Memories of Emma and Lily's laughter completed a vivid picture of warmth, but a flickering shadow of fear remained. Today marked a new chapter, one that would test his resolve. With a quiet determination, he glanced at his phone. Sarah's invitation was still fresh in his inbox, taunting him with the promise of adventure and the underlying uncertainty of forging a new family dynamic. Morning routines were second nature for him, a carefully choreographed dance. Wake up, breakfast, get the girls ready. What was less familiar was the idea of inviting someone else into their already tenuous routine. As he served the girls their breakfast, their excited chatter filled the space around him. He watched them, feeling a swell of affection. This period of their lives had been marked by turmoil. Jake had instinctively wrapped them in the protective cocoon of normalcy. However, as time has shown, normalcy could be a limiting perspective. He had clung tightly to the remnants of stability when perhaps emerging from that cocoon was what they all needed. Emma's eyes sparkled as she animatedly retold a story about her school playground, completely unaware of her father's internal deliberation. In contrast, Lily often mirrored her sister's excitement but held a thoughtful expression, her gaze wandering occasionally to Jake as if sensing his distraction. Their innocence served as a reminder of the stakes involved. Jake was driven not only by a desire for personal happiness, but by the responsibility to his daughters. As they finished breakfast, he sought a moment of honesty. "Hey girls, would you be all right with me inviting someone new to join us for a hike today?" The question hung in the air, charged with tension. He watched as their expressions transformed. Emma's immediate shrug of indifference softened into curiosity, while Lily's brow furrowed, revealing her deeper contemplation. "Is it that nice lady from last night?" Emma asked, her voice teasing yet hopeful. Jake swallowed hard. "Yes, her name is Sarah. I think you'd really like her." He anticipated a cascade of emotions flooding back at him, but instead Emma nodded, as if understanding the broader implications, while Lily remained silent, grappling with the concept of change. With that thin line of encouragement, Jake felt emboldened. He texted Sarah back, proposing the hike, his fingers dancing over the screen. As he hit send, a rush of anxiety washed over him, blending with a sense of liberation. Maybe this was an opportunity, not just for him, but for the girls to see their father embrace life beyond the shadows of his past. The wait for Sarah's reply was punctuated by Jake's spiraling thoughts. Was he really ready to introduce this new dynamic into their lives? Each heartbeat echoed his deepest insecurities, but the flicker of potential joy surged within him. For the first time, moving forward felt like something other than a betrayal. The text arrived. Sarah was thrilled and suggested a scenic trail she loved, complete with picturesque views. As they prepared to leave, Jake caught Emma's eye. She beamed back at him. The light in her eyes sparked something in him, a fragile hope intertwined with determination. As they made their way to the hiking trail, Jake felt a mixture of trepidation and exhilaration wash over him. The car was filled with conversation about what to expect on the trail, with Emma enthusiastically sharing her knowledge about the different trees they might encounter. Their innocence rejuvenated Jake's spirits, reminding him that change did not have to be daunting. It could pave the way toward healing. However, upon arrival at the trailhead, Jake spotted Sarah waiting by the entrance, her smile radiant yet layered with expectation. Would this be the moment pivoting Jake's fragmented past to a unified future? He inhaled deeply, the crisp air filling his lungs, a fresh start awaiting them beyond the trees. Yet as Sarah approached, Jake's heart began to race. What if the moment unraveled? Had he made the right decision? With every step they took, the balance of hope and anxiety began to shift precariously. Somehow, he knew deep down that today would lead them all closer to either a profound connection or an unexpected challenge that could alter their course irrevocably. And just as he began to relax, a sudden noise pierced the tranquility. A dissonant shriek from further up the trail sent a jolt of dread through him. What awaited them on this journey? Jake's heart hammered in his chest as the woods swallowed the sound of the shriek, the once inviting trail suddenly feeling more ominous. Emma and Lily had stopped mid-sentence, their lively chatter replaced by a shared confusion. Sarah's eyes, once sparkling with anticipation, narrowed slightly, her expression shifting to one of concern. "What was that?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Jake replied, forcing himself to maintain calm despite the unease coiling around him. There was an instinctive urge to tuck his daughters close, to shield them from any potential threat, yet he needed to embody confidence. They were all stepping into uncharted territory together, and he had to lead the way. "Let's check it out," Sarah said, her voice steady, instilling a semblance of authority that both comforted and challenged Jake. He admired her courage, yet the knot of doubt tightened in his stomach. What if the noise was a sign that today wouldn't go as planned? With Sarah in the lead, the group cautiously approached the direction from which the sound had originated. Each step felt heavier than the last. Jake's gaze flicked between his daughters, gauging their reactions. Emma appeared curious, glancing up at Sarah with an inquisitive tilt of her head, while Lily maintained a distant look, deep in thought. "Do you think it's an animal?" Emma suddenly asked, her eyes wide with fascination. "Probably nothing to worry about," Jake replied, though he didn't fully believe it. His mind raced through a catalog of wilderness encounters, snakes, bears, or perhaps a hiker in distress. But he realized this was the moment to embrace uncertainty, to embody the resilience he wanted his daughters to absorb. If they were to move forward as a unit, they needed to confront fears, not retreat from them. The trail began to incline, the shrill cry echoing once more, sending a cascading ripple of apprehension through the air. Sarah turned slightly, catching his eye, an unspoken agreement passing between them. They would face whatever mystery lay ahead together. As they pressed further, they came upon the source. A small child had fallen, tangled in roots and desperately calling out for help. The moment stopped time, the seriousness of their outing suddenly underscoring their mission. Jake's instincts kicked in. "You two stay here," he instructed Emma and Lily, firm yet calm. "Sarah, let's help him." Instinctively, Emma took a step forward, her innocent enthusiasm battling with Jake's protective instincts. "Dad, we can help too," she urged, her voice steady despite the chaos of the situation. "Okay," he relented, realizing they should learn not only to observe but to act. "But stay right behind us." They moved close to the child, Jake kneeling beside him, assessing the situation with quick yet deliberate movements. As they worked to untangle the child, Jake's feelings shifted from fear to a profound sense of purpose. He glanced at Sarah, who was lighting up with both competence and empathy. It dawned on him how interconnected their lives were becoming, not just through shared experiences, but through trust formed in vulnerability. He didn't want to lock anyone out. He wanted to build bridges, not walls. With teamwork, they freed the child, who soon revealed a beaming smile, transforming the earlier tension into relief. Jake's chest swelled with pride as he stepped back, watching Emma and Lily rise to the occasion, their small hands gently reassuring the shaken child. This was not just a fleeting moment of adventure, it was a lesson in kindness, resilience, and unity. But amid the joy and praises from the child, Jake felt something swelling within him, an awareness of his own growth. For so long he had shielded his daughters from the complexities around them, but in this moment they embraced challenge together. Maybe this was part of emerging from their cocoon, not just to invite Sarah into their lives, but to blend their fears and triumphs. As they resumed their hike, the lingering echoes of the child's gratitude resonated in the air, transforming into a new understanding for Jake. But just when he thought they had subdued his earlier anxieties, a distant ruffle in the underbrush caught his attention, unseating the security he had begun to feel. What was lurking in the shadows, ready to challenge their newfound resolve? Jake's heart raced, the thrill of their recently shared success overshadowed by uncertainty. He scanned the underbrush where the noise had come from, fighting the rising intuition that this day would demand more from him than he had anticipated. Each rustle felt like a message, a warning that underlying their bravery, danger lurked nearby. "Stay close, everyone," he instructed, his voice steady but laced with urgency. Unspoken fears began to creep backward, but Jake pushed them aside, focusing on the task at hand, the need to protect and guide his daughters through the unknown. "Do you hear that?" Emma said, her gaze directed inquisitively at the thicket, curiosity painted on her face. Although he understood her fascination, Jake contemplated the line between nurturing that curiosity and instilling caution. This was a fragile balance he had yet to master, but perhaps this day would reveal more about his parenting skills than any book ever could. As they ventured deeper into the woods, a sense of new awareness blossomed within Jake. Yesterday he had merely existed in the periphery of his daughters' lives, but today they were tangling together in a more intricate way. Each step seemed to ground him further in his commitment to being an active participant, to embracing life with both its uncertainties and blessings. They soon found themselves in a clearing, the sun filtering through the trees, casting gentle patterns on the ground, an oasis in the shadow of tension. Jake released an exhale he didn't realize he had been holding. Here, at least, they could regroup. "Why don't we take a moment?" Sarah suggested. Her voice cut through the air like a cleansing breeze, and Jake felt gratitude swell for her presence, her calming energy breaking apart the rising tension. He nodded and motioned for the girls to sit on a log. As they settled into their temporary sanctuary, he felt an overwhelming urge to converse. "You know, what we just did, helping that child, it's something really important," he began, his eyes sweeping across Emma and Lily's curious faces. "That was cool," Emma chirped, her enthusiasm contagious. "I didn't know I could do something like that." Jake smiled, but a shadow of doubt crept back in. There were many things she didn't know, many things he wished to protect her from. But the truth was, the world is filled with complexities, and sheltering his daughters would only hold them back. It wasn't about isolating the light from darkness. It was about teaching them how to dance in both. Lily, quieter but intensely focused, pursed her lips. "What if we hadn't hurt him, Dad? What if—" Her voice trailed off, uncertainty stirring heavy in the air. Jake felt a jolt of concern grip him. "What if we hadn't? That fear is valid, Lily, but we can't live in what-ifs. Learning to face the unknown is part of growing up." His voice trembled slightly, aware that he was imparting wisdom while grappling with his own fears. Just then, another rustling sliced through the calm. The world focused sharply, and Jake's body tensed as adrenaline ignited within him. Movement was visible, a figure pushing through the bushes, looming larger. "Stay behind us," Sarah called, her tone resolute, even as Jake felt his heart drop into the pit of his stomach. What emerged from the foliage was not what he expected. It was a wild fox, thin with matted fur. The creature seemed more frightened than they were, its eyes wild but shimmering with a raw instinct to survive. Jake could see its vulnerability. In that moment, he understood something essential. Their journey through the woods was not just about facing external threats, but also about embracing the fears within themselves. He realized that growth didn't simply come from confrontation, but from understanding and compassion. As the fox darted away into the trees, Jake felt something shift within him. Maybe there was a lesson hidden in their encounter. They could adapt, evolve, and nurture this newfound bond while facing whatever came next. But still, lingering doubts festered. What shadows awaited them in deeper recesses of the woods? The questions underlined a suspense that clung heavily, echoing the gnawing uncertainty of Jake's path forward. Jake exhaled, the tension in the air now thick with a mixture of relief and lingering trepidation. As the fox disappeared, he turned his attention back to his daughters. Their faces reflected a cocktail of emotions, excitement, curiosity, and a hint of the fear that had danced at the edges of their adventure. Regardless of the unexpected encounter, he knew they had shared something meaningful. "Let's discuss what we learned today," he said, tapping into the instinct that this moment needed to be a catalyst for growth. Emma's wide eyes sparkled with the remnants of adrenaline. "It was like a real-life adventure story, Dad. We saved a kid and saw a wild animal." With each word, her confidence swelled, and Jake felt a nod of pride in his chest. Her spirit was resilient, undeterred by the shadows of uncertainty. "Yes, Emma, but remember what happened right before we helped," he prompted, guided by the desire to ground their experience in reality. "We didn't just rush in. We listened and assessed the situation." Lily, still pensive, interjected. "But what if something bad had happened? What then?" Her voice was soft yet inquisitive, and Jake could feel the weight of the "what if" hanging over them. "It's true. Life isn't always a storybook," he replied, thoughtfully considering his response. "But what I want you both to understand is that fear isn't something to ignore. It's what drives us to be aware, to think critically, and to act wisely. Every moment of fear can turn into an opportunity for growth if we let it. He watched as his words settled with them. Teaching his daughters how to navigate fear's complexities was daunting, but he understood it was part of the lesson he was learning too. The enormity of being a father was becoming clearer, layered with responsibilities he hadn't quite anticipated. Was he ready to guide them through darker paths? So much of his past had been dictated by caution alone, and while it shielded him, it also restrained his instincts. There in the clearing, he felt a shift in this ideology. Leadership wasn't about dominating fear, it was about dancing with it, inviting it into their lives, as a teacher rather than an enemy. "Can we try to help more people when we're out in the world, Dad?" Emma asked, her voice firm, already filled with visions of heroism. Jake smiled, sensing the potential blossoming in his daughters. "Of course, but let's talk about safety first. We can't help anyone if we don't take care of ourselves." Their discussion brought about newfound determination, and Jake felt a spark of hope igniting within him. Was this what it meant to be a leader? To mold his children not just to survive in the world, but to thrive in it. Each question fueled his resolve to become a better version of himself for them. They resumed their journey through the undergrowth, with Jake consciously choosing a path that felt safe yet challenging, ensuring that each deviation would introduce valuable lessons. The daylight began to wane, shadows stretching and thickening around them, a reminder that the wilderness had its own set of challenges. Just as the woods were unpredictable, so was his resolve. But as uncertainty echoed in every rustle of leaves, Jake understood that it wouldn't define them. "Let's pick up the pace," he instructed, realizing that taking decisive action would combat any remnants of doubt. Action fueled clarity, and the cadence of their steps became a rhythmic dance against the uncertainties of life. But deep down, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the real trials lay ahead. They might have faced an unexpected fox, but was something darker waiting further down the trail? As they moved forward, a new urgency ignited in his core. This wasn't just about their adventure. This was about transformation, for each one of them. What lay around the next bend would push them more than they knew. Would they be ready to confront it? A chilling breeze swept through the trees, a symbol of what was to come. Would it be a mere gust, or the harbinger of harsher storms ahead? The path gradually steepened, the foliage thickening around them, as Jake felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The woods were no longer a mere backdrop for a family outing. They had transformed into a dynamic arena, one where his daughters would either flourish or falter, much like the wild foliage that changed with each season. "Do you think we could find any more animals?" Lily's voice broke through the growing stillness, her tone light, betraying a hint of the fear that still lingered. Jake looked at her, remembering his own childhood mind buzzing with curiosities, and he resolved to nurture that spirit in her. "Maybe," he replied, intentionally vague, "but it's important to remember that wildlife is unpredictable. If we see anything, we'll maintain our distance and let it be." This wasn't just about caution, it was a lesson in respect for the untamed world around them. As they ascended the hillside, his daughter's laughter broke out occasionally, a testament to their comfort in the wilderness. Yet, in Jake's chest, a different melody played, a tune of worry mixed with determination. The echo of their earlier encounter loomed over his thoughts. What if their next interaction didn't end as safely? His mind drifted. There was a time when fear had paralyzed his actions, when walls built from past experiences shielded him from risks, but also suffocated his growth as a person and a father. Were those barriers still present, hidden beneath layers of pragmatism? The thought of confronting those walls sent a tremor of uncertainty through him. Jake shoved it aside, forcing himself to refocus on the moment. He needed to remain present for his daughters to model the behavior he wanted them to adopt, courage laced with intelligence. Before long, the trees began to thin, and the sun broke through in jagged beams, illuminating patches of the ground. In one of those beams, Jake spotted a tangle of bramble, its thorny embrace reminiscent of the protective barriers he had built around his heart. He felt triggered to explore it, testing the edges of his own control. "Let's check this out," he exclaimed, more enthusiastically than he intended. The girls scampered ahead, eyes wide with adventure, and he followed, his heart racing. Just beyond the thicket, they found a small clearing adorned with wildflowers, vibrant and seemingly untouched. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. Nature had countered his earlier unease with a picturesque scene. It offered a reprieve, an invitation to breathe in beauty, a moment of calm before whatever storm lay ahead. While the girls twirled amid the flowers, he started to think seriously about the lessons he wanted to impart. Each delicate petal represented a chance to cultivate resilience, to embrace life's unpredictability. In this space, he saw how he could teach them not just to face fears, but to cherish uncertainties as a path to growth. "Girls," he called, laughter bubbling up, "what do you think makes these flowers grow so vividly?" Emma paused, her brows furrowing slightly in contemplation. "Maybe the rain?" she suggested, her innocence kicking into high gear. "Good one, but what else? Do you think they're afraid of the storms?" Lily approached, her curiosity piqued. "No, Dad, they just grow. The storms help them." "Yes, just like us. Every challenge matters because it makes us who we are." As they reveled in the beauty around them, the realization struck him. The more he leaned into this transformation, in guiding his daughters through these challenges, the more he was finding himself. But just as they began to bask in the joy of the moment, an unexpected rustling sent a chill down Jake's spine. Was that just a breeze, or did something lurk beyond the trees? He swallowed hard, the air thick with an unnameable tension. Instincts sharpened, he prepared himself for whatever shadows might emerge from the depths of the wild. Would this serendipitous encounter be a new challenge to face together, or would it reveal something more sinister lurking on the horizon? The unanswered questions hung heavy, drawing Jake's focus to the uncertain path ahead. The rustling grew louder, each movement pushing against the fragile tension in the air. Jake's heart raced, caught between the instinct to protect his daughters and the primal urge to confront whatever lay beyond the trees. He tore his gaze from the myriad wildflowers, their vibrant colors now a stark contrast to the prickling anxiety coursing through him. "Stay close, girls," he instructed, forcing a calmness into his voice. He positioned himself slightly ahead of them, the instinct to shield them igniting his protective instincts. The bushes parted with a harsh crackle, and out stepped a deer, young, curious, yet skittish. Jake let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding, a momentary lift of the weight pressing on his chest. "Look!" Lily whispered, eyes wide with wonder. Emma leaned in closer, her previous worry dissipating as fascination took its place. In that instant, Jake felt a flicker of relief. As the girls' laughter filled the clearing, the wildness of the woods transformed into a space of discovery and joy. It struck him then, this was a moment he never wanted to overshadow with fear. He took a small step back, allowing them to witness the beauty of wildlife, instead of imposing the weight of his own fears on them. This was his opportunity, to observe their reactions, to understand the depths of their emotions. Jake watched them as if they were learning to navigate their own lives, much like he had to confront his past barriers. "Can we go closer?" Emma asked, barely suppressing her enthusiasm. "No, sweetie," Jake replied gently. "Remember what we discussed about respecting nature. We don't want to scare it." The words held a weight that resonated deeply within him. They were a reminder not just for his daughters, but for himself. Every lesson was dual purpose. It reinforced values for them while challenging the protective boundaries he had stitched tightly around himself. Jake watched as the deer turned, its presence fading into the brush. He felt a pang of connection to the creature. It was a part of this unpredictable world he was teaching them to respect. Fear mingled with a bittersweet admiration, an acknowledgement of vulnerability in the wild that mirrored his own. Echoes of the past whispered in his mind, taunting him. Would he have handled the situation differently had he been alone? Just a few years ago, uncertainty would have paralyzed him, forcing him to remain at the fringes, to observe life rather than live it. But now, as he guided his daughters, he felt the walls within him begin to crack. With each step further into the woods, he craved to push through his boundaries, to emerge into a more expansive version of himself. "Dad, what if we made our own path through the woods?" Lily suggested, her innocence radiating a sense of adventure. "An exciting idea, but let's map out where we want to go first," Jake replied, contemplating the real-life implications of her proposal. Creating their own path was about more than trying new trails. It was about allowing the unpredictability of life to shape them. We'll need to be careful and purposeful. Just because something looks enticing doesn't mean it's safe. Inside, a storm brewed. Jake recognized the familiar pattern of his own hesitation, splitting his intent to inspire. The challenge was in balancing their need for exploration with his own lurking doubts. Teaching his children to feel free in their choices while grappling with his own need for control was not just his challenge today, but a long-term commitment to grow. As they ventured deeper into the woods, their path became less defined and more thrilling, much like the journey ahead for Jake. Every step was a reminder of the walls he needed to dismantle, layer by layer. Just then, a sudden unease unfurled in his chest. The trees around them seemed to tighten, the shadows drawing closer. What if venturing forward not only tested his daughter's bravery, but also exposed his own unresolved fears? Would this adventure solidify the bond they were building, or perhaps unearth more of their individual vulnerabilities? He felt an internal shift, a realization that growth required facing the dark corners of one's own psyche, acknowledging fears and redefining them into sources of strength and transformation. Jake considered his next move, unaware that the woods were about to unveil more than just their own paths. A figure appeared in the distance, outlined against the trees, an unexpected encounter that beckoned Jake to confront not only the meaning of bravery, but the uncharted territories of his own heart. Jake squinted through the dappled shadows, his heart racing anew as the figure stepped closer. The blurred outline began to materialize into a familiar shape, a man. The sight sent a ripple of unease through him, as reflections on past mistakes rushed in like a torrential flood. Jake's instincts screamed for retreat, but he stood his ground, his daughters beside him still wrapped in the innocent euphoria of the deer encounter. "Dad, who's that?" Emma whispered, eyes darting between the man and Jake. "Just a traveler, sweetie. Let's stay right here," he replied, attempting to maintain the calm facade, even as turmoil surged within him. As the man approached, Jake recognized him. It was Rick, an old acquaintance from his days in college, somebody he hadn't seen in years, and with whom there had been unresolved issues. Memories came back in snippets, shared laughter, late-night discussions, but also the fallout that had left a lingering stain on Jake's conscience. He remembered how Rick had been a constant in his life until misunderstandings marred their friendship. Now, with a few paces between them, Rick halted, his expression a mixture of surprise and uncertainty. "Jake, is that you?" Jake found himself at a crossroads. Should he engage, or should he sever the ties that had long ago frayed? "Yeah, it's me." His voice was cautious, weighing each word like a stone in the hand. "What brings you out here?" "I could ask you the same," Rick replied, looking past Jake to the daughters at his side. "Got your hands full, I see." "Just out for a hike. Some family time. Jake replied, trying to inject confidence into his tone, though his insides twisted with vulnerability. The trail felt narrower now, the atmosphere crackling with unspoken tension. Jake knew this wasn't just a stroll through the woods. This was a moment that could redefine his understanding of friendship, responsibility, and ultimately himself. "Jake," Rick began, taking a hesitant step forward, "I've been meaning to talk to you for a while. About the past. I know things ended badly between us, and—" The heartfelt apology hung on Rick's lips like a raw, open wound. Jake's heart raced, not quite ready to dive back into those murky waters. The confrontation seemed daunting, yet liberating. His instinct clamored for resolution, reminding him that unresolved conflict often acted as a weight, shackling growth. "Look, Jake interrupted, unwilling to let his fear dictate his response. "I haven't forgotten either. We all make mistakes, myself included. But I want to protect my daughters from any negativity. If this is about the past—" He paused, wrestling with his feelings. Would acknowledging the pain give him the relief he yearned for, or unravel the delicate fabric of the moment he shared with his girls? "Jake, I'm sorry for how things turned out," Rick persisted, his earnestness spilling over as he glanced at the girls. "I regret what happened, and I hope one day we can move past it." The sincerity in Rick's voice resonated with Jake, but also stirred deep-seated fears. Was reconciliation a step forward, or a potential trigger for old wounds? He felt an energetic tension blossoming around them. Every word was a choice, every moment a chance for personal growth, pushing him closer to a pivotal decision. Jake's daughters were watching, absorbing every nuance of their father's struggle. They might not grasp the entirety of the unfolding drama, but their presence reminded him of the legacy he wished to leave, one of courage, resilience, and the ability to rectify mistakes instead of burying them. "Okay," Jake finally said, uncertainty lacing his voice, but determination wrapping it together. "Let's talk, but maybe not here. I don't want this to overshadow our day." As they stood on the cusp of reconnection, Jake was aware that the coming dialogue could unravel more than just his history with Rick. It was also an invitation for him to confront his deeper fears about intimacy, fears that had stunted his emotional growth for too long. He knew that stepping into the conversation with Rick might very well test the boundaries of what he had learned about vulnerability, forgiveness, and ultimately himself. As they began walking back toward the clearing, Jake's thoughts melded with the rustling leaves around them, echoing the unknown paths ahead. How much longer could he evade his inner truths? It was a journey waiting to unfold, just like the haunting whisper of the woods beckoning for deeper exploration. Yet an unsettling notion slipped into his mind. What if some aspects of his past refused to stay buried, emerging anew to challenge everything he believed about redemption? Jake took a deep breath as he led Rick away from the clearing, the cacophony of chirping birds and the rustling leaves fading into a profound silence. His daughters walked a few paces behind, their chatter momentarily replaced by the palpable tension in Jake's chest. With each step along the familiar trail, he could feel the weight of the past bearing down on him, a past filled with misunderstandings, sorrow, and unresolved feelings that had lingered longer than he liked to acknowledge. "Why now, Rick?" Jake finally asked, breaking the silence. The question hung in the air, layered with both curiosity and caution. "I've had time to reflect," Rick replied, running a hand through his hair, a gesture Jake recognized as a sign of nervousness. "I realize my part in our fallout. I was selfish, and I hurt you in ways I never fully understood." Jake nodded slowly, feeling the remnants of hurt stirring within him. A part of him wanted to berate Rick for the years lost, for the pain inflicted, but as he turned to glance back at Emma and Lily, playing obliviously with sticks, he reassessed. They were central to his journey now. Everything he did was for them. "Time doesn't really erase pain," Jake said, his voice steady but carrying the weight of experience. It simply reshapes it. You might not have seen how your actions impacted my life. I could barely keep afloat during those years." Rick's expression shifted to one of regret and understanding, his gaze dropping momentarily toward the ground. "I get that. I pushed you away, and I see that now. I'm really sorry for everything, Jake." For a fleeting moment, Jake felt the walls he had constructed around his heart begin to tremble, collapsing old defenses. But he held back, maintaining a protective barrier for his daughters, his inner thoughts wrestling with the nature of forgiveness. Was this moment merely an echo of their broken past, or the bridge toward a future filled with growth? "Listen," Jake finally said, his voice firm. "If we're going to talk about this, I want it to be productive. I have to think about my daughters. I can't revisit negative patterns that could drag them into our issues." The sincerity in his tone seemed to resonate with Rick, who nodded in understanding. "Absolutely, I get it. Let's find a way to move forward without dragging any unnecessary baggage along. That's the last thing I'd want." Jake felt a flicker of hope stitch itself into the conversation, a reminder that resolutions could blossom from confrontation. Engaging with Rick could offer a lesson to his daughters on the importance of accountability. As they reached a quieter stretch on the trail, Jake paused to ensure the girls were preoccupied. He lowered his voice. "Today is supposed to be about them. If this frankly becomes uncomfortable, it may not be the right moment." With renewed purpose, he continued, "I want to teach them about resilience, about how to tackle life's challenges, not just my past with you, but all of life's encounters." Rick's expression shifted again, reflecting a deeper understanding. "I respect that, Jake. You're doing a great job with them. They seem happy." Jake's heart swelled at Rick's observation. It transcended mere flattery. It was a recognition that echoed the dedication he put into fatherhood, the conscious effort to rebuild, to fill his daughters' lives with strength and care. The difficulty of single parenthood tested his limits, but he now realized it also revealed his greatest strengths. As they resumed their walk, Rick met Jake's eyes, sincerity pouring from him. "Can I meet them? I'd like to apologize to them too. They deserve to hear it." The request was surprising, and Jake hesitated, weighing the implications. Could this bring them closure, or would it risk unsettling the fragile equilibrium he had carefully constructed? "I'll ask them," Jake replied, the words containing both uncertainty and a hint of resolution. "But you should know, if I open up this door, it will become part of their lives too." "Agreed," Rick said sincerely. "I think they should know that grown-ups can make mistakes, but we can also grow from them. We can model that." In that moment, something significant shifted within Jake. It wasn't just about their past. It was about taking responsibility for their actions moving forward. To show Emma and Lily that confronting one's mistakes was an act of bravery, not weakness. Jake motioned for the girls to catch up, their curious eyes dancing between their father's serious demeanor and the unfamiliar face standing beside him. "Hey, ladies, we're going to take a quick break. I want you to meet a friend of mine. This is Rick." Emma's enthusiasm bubbled to the surface. "Hi, Rick. Nice to meet you." Lily peered shyly at the newcomer, unsure of how to navigate the sudden introduction. "Hi, girls," Rick said, kneeling slightly to meet their eye level. "It's a pleasure to meet you both. I've heard so much about you." "I hope it's good stuff," Emma joked, a playfulness igniting the air around them. Jake smiled, feeling the tension easing. The moment was unexpected but timely, bridging their fragmented past with a hopeful future. He saw their laughter resonate in the peace of the woods, connecting threads he wished to weave back into the fabric of shared experiences. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something important," Rick said, sincerity shining through in the way he regarded the girls. "I want to apologize for how I treated your father in the past. I was wrong, and it hurt him. I'm really sorry for that, and I hope you can understand that adults make mistakes sometimes." Emma exchanged glances with Lily, gauging each other's understanding of the situation. "We all mess up," Emma said bravely. the innocence in her voice lingering like autumn leaves drifting from the trees. Just like my dad always says, we can learn from our mistakes. Jake felt a rush of pride for his daughter's perception. It became evident she was absorbing the right values, more deeply than he had realized. Exactly, Jake enthusiastically chimed in. Mistakes don't define who we are. It's what we do after that matters. Lily grasped her father's hand, her small fingers wrapping around his palm. Can we be friends with you, Rick? Everyone deserves a second chance. Rick smiled, gratitude glistening in his eyes. I'd like that, Lily, very much. Just then, the sun broke through the clouds above them. The warmth felt like a signal, a promise of a new beginning, a transition toward healing. The moment encapsulated the rare intersection of vulnerability and courage. As they continued their hike, Jake felt lighter, aware that every step forward began to carve new trails into their shared future. This journey would lead them to more adventures, inevitable challenges, and opportunities for growth. Together. In that moment, Jake realized his personal transformation was not just in reconnecting with a past friend, but in understanding the importance of community and support in building a family. He saw it wasn't merely about individual achievement, but about opening doors for collective growth. In the following days, Jake became committed to nurturing their budding friendship with Rick. They coordinated weekend outings, exploring trails, joining cookouts, and allowing the girls to form their own impressions of what forgiveness and friendship could look like. Their laughter echoed through the woods and into forgotten pathways, reminding Jake that growth is not just a solitary endeavor, it can flourish within the bonds of family and understanding. As Jake settled into this new chapter, he realized his daughters were undeniably his greatest achievement. Watching them thrive against the backdrop of his newfound resolve filled him with an immense sense of fulfillment. As he moved forward, Jake understood that every connection, every apology, and every act of courage threaded through a shared narrative of healing, a continuous narrative transforming his family as they journeyed together through life, one step at a time. You need to subscribe now to witness how true personal growth unfolds in the most unexpected ways. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and share this inspiring journey. Comment your reactions and theories about Jake's evolution and the new chapter ahead. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to conquer their past and embrace their futures. Don't wait even one more second to support the channel, and let's continue exploring powerful stories together.